The information on this video was supplied from statistics on censorship compiled by the Office for Intellectual Freedom from the American Library Association. What's up guys, and welcome to a video on Banned Book Week. As usual, I'm pretty late to this. I should have made a video at the start of the week because, you know, it makes sense, make a video, Banned Book Week, make it at the start of the week, raise awareness, and then people can spend the whole week doing what you're supposed to be doing. But I am never punctual anymore, so here we are on the Friday, or maybe not even the Friday. I'm recording this on the Friday, who knows when it's gonna come out. But here's my video on banned books. So first, we gotta ask ourselves, what is censorship? Why is there a banned book week at all? Well, the definition of the word ban is to remove the removal of materials based on content. The word challenge is defined by the attempt to remove or restrict materials based on objections from a person or group. So basically, the definition that we're given for this week is banning books silences stories and discussions. Censorship succeeds when no one talks about it. Raise your megaphone and speak out for banned books. So that was pretty much why I wanted to make this video, because I'm a really strong believer in the freedom of expression, the freedom of speech. I mean, who wouldn't be, because it's a basic freedom, isn't it? So I feel that banning books is counterproductive to those freedoms that we are given, because how are we supposed to have the freedom to express ourselves, or the freedom to write what we feel like needs to be right, tell the stories that need to be told, if there are people who are banning books? Because it's the complete opposite really of freedom of speech. So it's a basic human right to be able to speak and express how we feel and what our opinions are and what we personally want to stand for. That is our human right. We are all entitled to that, no matter what our opinion is and no matter what it is that we want to say. We are all entitled to say it. Does that mean that everyone is going to like it? No. But does it mean we're entitled to say it? Yes. It is our right to be able to say it. Acting upon it is a different thing altogether, but that's not what we're talking about here. Freedom of speech and expression is something that we are all allowed to do. So who initiates the challenges to materials? 14% are from board and administration offices, 6% is libraries and teachers, 3% is political and religious groups, 2% is electoral offices, and 1% is students. So that's actually not surprising, because I think that the 1% that are students, I never wanted to like question books that I was reading in school. I wanted to read them because I was enjoying them. I stayed away from books that offended me and books that I didn't want to read, but I never felt the need to try and ban them. So I understand why students are the lowest percentage of people who are trying to get books banned or challenging books being published. I am not surprised that it seems to be higher up offices and adults more that are trying to control media that is produced and out there, because it's a very common thing for adults in the current world to try and control what younger audiences are viewing. Not necessarily out of malice all the time. Sometimes it's concerned parents who have backward views, who were just raised that way. Sometimes it's parents who are genuinely concerned about what their children are reading. I'll give an example. My Auntie Jane used to work in a school library. She used to give me books from the library. She used to let me borrow them and then she would bring them back when I'm finished. But every so often she would give me a book to keep. And one time she gave me a bunch of books because they were now this was a high school, it was in the library and the parents did not agree with it. And what were the books? I actually still have one of the books that I was given by her. It's called 32C, That's Me. And if you look closely, you can see that there's a bra in the corner of the book cover. And that's why the parents wanted the book out. And I was given it by my auntie, because there's a bra in the corner, a wee cartoon bra, and it's called 32C, That's Me. And honestly, when I was reading this book, it's not adult, it's not mature, it's not explicit. In fact, it was about a girl, from what I remember, going through high school and becoming a part of the play Macbeth. And I think that she was thinking that the bad luck related to Macbeth was affecting her everyday life outside of school, and pretty much, you know, all the classic teenage troubles that come with teenage novels. So it wasn't really offensive, but it was still banned from the school library and given to me because it's called 32C, that's me, and there's a bra in the corner. So that's an example of what sort of books get banned and why, and it is usually by adults, because I didn't think twice about reading that when I was given it. I'm sure plenty of girls in the library in that school weren't going to think twice about reading it. I'm sure the boys weren't even bothered by that cartoon bra in the corner. I mean, I know boys can be a bit weird, but honestly I don't even think they would have looked at that twice. But it was our parents worrying about us and thinking that our young minds would be exposed to something horrendous. So what are the reasons for books getting banned? Well, as you know, bras apparently, and you can also get books banned because they're LGBT, because they're sexually explicit, they're violent, they're un-American for some in America. If there's profanity used, there's a religious viewpoint, if there's sex, education, propaganda, politically biased, racist, pornography, suicide, offensive language, gender identity, perpetuating stereotypes, it's all there. Like pretty much anything that could probably make up an interesting book, you can't have it. Like, I'm not saying that racism is like a good thing and that would make an interesting book to have a racist book, but what I mean is that books that challenge racism, or books that bring up the topic of racism and people who are struggling with that issue in their everyday life, why the hell are we going to read that if it's banned because it's racist? Because there's racist language used. It doesn't make sense. Like, it's not as black and white as going, oh, there's racism in that book, ban it. To Kill a Mockingbird, a classic. How the hell would anyone have ever gone to read To Kill a Mockingbird if it had been banned because it had racism in it, or because it had rape involved in it, or it had like court hearings and, I don't know, political corruption and stuff like that in it? No one would have ever gotten to read it, and that is a classic. Like, it's literally a classic. If it had been as black and white and going, oh, there's racism in that, ban it, then no one would ever have gotten to read it. Another example is City of Bones. I think I've actually mentioned this before. City of Bones is the first book in the Mortal Instruments trilogy, I wish. Fuck no, the sextuplet. There's 6 of these books. When it was first published in 2008, it was restricted to adult audiences only because of the sexuality of Alec Lightwood. Alec Lightwood being a homosexual man who didn't really even express it that much in the first book. It was mentioned he met a guy, he didn't even start dating him in the first book, but because it was mentioned and the word gay was in there, as if there was like a keyword to be searched, and once that keyword was locked onto, then the book was restricted. Thankfully the world has evolved since then and we can all read the Mortal Instruments, and there's all the show, there's the movie, and then there's the TV show, and there's plenty of side books and side series to the Mortal Instruments now. So thankfully the world has evolved on from that, and younger audiences can read City of Bones, like teenagers and anyone else who wants to, because weirdly enough, Alec Lightwood's character is not harmful to anyone. I know, shock, horror. How is that so, how am I so surprised at that? Another good example is Harry Potter. Believe it or not, people have tried to ban Harry Potter in the past, and by people, I mean mainly people who have strong religious views. Many churches have condemned Harry Potter because it's Satanistic, it uses Satanistic terms and characters and creatures and things like that, and they view magic as witchcraft. I know people still think in witchcraft these days, but it's true, they do. Witchcraft and all that stuff, people still try to ban Harry Potter sometimes. When it first came out, there was schools that couldn't have it, and then there was some kids who were banned by their parents from reading it. And this is Harry Potter, like one of the most famous like children book series to ever be published. That was pretty much everyone's childhood, but obviously not everyone's, because the parents were religious, crazy, and they banned it from them, and it got banned from some schools because those parents complained. I think there was even a case where a mother wrote like a friendly Harry Potter, like she rewrote Harry Potter and like she put like her own wee bits and pieces in and like changed all the Satanism and all the magic and all stuff like that. She changed all, and just so that her kid could be part of the Harry Potter hype, but just not the Satanistic witchcraft part of it. Believe, oh god, I'm so glad. I was raised in a Catholic household, but they weren't that Catholic. Flip me. It's insane, really, how bad this sometimes gets. And it's not just books, movies, TV programs, documentaries, posters, art. All of it is in danger of being censored simply because people get offended by it, or they think that it's going to be harmful to view it. And no one has the right to choose that for someone else. No one has the right to choose. Sure, if you think your work is going to be triggering, put a trigger warning before it starts. Or in the case of kids where there is a law that they can't decide things for themselves, be a bit careful when it comes to like offensive material, like sexual graphic stuff. You don't want to be handing your child, your 5-year-old, a copy of 50 Shades of Grey. That's not censorship, that's just common sense. But we need to let young people mold their minds themselves by choosing what they want to read and what they want to expose themselves to. Banning books is counterproductive. And I'm really glad that I realised that the people were raising awareness for this. I'm really glad that there's Banned Book Week and we're all raising awareness for books that were or are still banned. I'm going to leave a list of books at the end of the video that are still banned, and that maybe we can find a way to like buy them somewhere. I don't know, maybe we can't, but it's worth a shot. But yeah, just raise awareness. Say why you think that we should have this freedom to read and watch and view and paint and draw what we want, and to express ourselves without the concern of being banned because it may be considered offensive or explicit or wrongly accused of being harmful. Because our parents and adults should not make those decisions for us. We should be free to make those decisions for ourselves. And that's important. That's part of our freedom of choice, freedom of expression, and freedom of speech. We should be allowed to view and create whatever we want, and that is our God-given right as human beings. It's weird having to explain this, but some people don't know, so there you go, just in case you don't know. So raise awareness yourself. Tell me in the comments below if there's any books that you enjoy that were ever banned or are banned, and let me know your opinion on banned books altogether or in the comments below. And like, comment, and subscribe if you want to. Don't if you don't want to be there. Don't want to hear if you don't want to be there. Same deal with social media. Follow if you want. Don't follow if you don't want to, because I don't want anyone there who doesn't want to be there. And I'll see you next time, guys. And remember, read what you want. Consume what you want. Fight for your right to do, read, and create and view what you want to see.